Vin Diesel once said, "Winning is winning" in Fast and Furious 1, but MMA would definitely disagree. Because in this sport, how you win can matter just as much as the win itself. Sometimes you can leave the cage with your hand raised and still have the crowd booing you out of the arena. It might be your attitude, your celebration, or even how you handled a controversial moment. In some cases, the win turns into a PR disaster and the fighter becomes the villain overnight. Today, we're diving into all the ways that can happen. I'm Your Name, and these are 10 times fighters got villainized for how they won. Quick disclaimer. We're not talking about fighters who just beat the hometown favorite. That's too easy, like when poor Benson Henderson got booed after beating Josh Thompson in San Jose, even while proposing to his girlfriend. That's not heat. These entries. These are the real deal. 10. Ihor Potieria versus Shogun Rua. There's a special kind of reverence MMA fans have for aging legends, especially when they're on their final fight. We don't necessarily expect a fairy tale ending, but we at least hope they get treated with respect. So when a debuting Ihor Potieria was matched with Shogun freaking Rua, in Brazil no less, he should have known the assignment. He wasn't. Expected to lose. This was Shogun's farewell, and everyone just wanted him to go out with dignity. Ihor got the win. Fair enough. But then came the taunting, the suck-it chop, the Mutombo finger wag, the over-the-top cage celebration like he'd just won 2 belts at MSG. It was. Not the move. Even his post-fight interview, where he tried to show some respect, felt too little. Too late. The damage was already done, and fans across the board weren't having it. Cowboy Oliveira vs. Will Brooks. Missing weight is one of the easiest ways to draw hate. It's unprofessional, it's seen as gaining an unfair edge, and when you miss, by 6.5 pounds. Yeah, you've got a target on your back. Cowboy Oliveira showed up light and then showed up dominant. He overwhelmed Will Brooks and finished him brutally. But it wasn't just the weight that got fans mad. It was the way he rubbed it in after the win. More DX crotch chops, more taunting. You could feel the crowd turn on him instantly. Winning after a weight miss is one thing. Dancing on your opponent's grave, that's villain territory. Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon. There's a rule when you win a controversial decision. Be humble, be vague, be gracious. Say something like, "Tough fight," "Respect to my opponent," and maybe toss in a "the." Judges saw it how they saw it. Paddy Pimblett did none of that. After one of the most baffling decisions in recent memory, he doubled down, saying he clearly won, that it was easy, and brushing off any criticism. This from a guy who had built his entire brand on being relatable and likable. It was a turning point in Paddy's popularity, and a lot of fans haven't forgiven him since. Colby Covington versus Demian Maia. This one's legendary. Colby Covington walked into São Paulo, beat Demian Maia, and then lit a match on the mic. "Brazil, you're a dump. All you filthy animals suck." And just like that, the Colby heel turn was official. Whether it was premeditated or not, that night turned Colby from a mid-tier welterweight into one of the sport's most hated and talked about fighters. And he's been leaning into it ever since. Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. Brock Lesnar walks into UFC 200 on short notice, gets a special exemption from USADA, beats Mark Hunt, and then, boom, fails his drug tests. The result: a payday, a suspension he dodged by retiring again, and a big middle finger to anyone who thought rules applied to him. Hunt, meanwhile, was left furious, and fans saw right through the circus. It was a shady situation from top to bottom, and Brock came out looking like the ultimate villain who just dipped out with the bag. Yoel Romero versus Tim Kennedy. Stoolgate. Yoel Romero was gassed. Tim Kennedy nearly finished him at the end of round 2. But then came the chaos. Romero sat on his stool a little too long between rounds, and things got sketchy. Officials were trying to clean up excess Vaseline. Confusion reigned. But Yoel got some precious recovery time, and then finished Kennedy 58 seconds later. Fans were furious. Cheater chants echoed. But was it Romero's fault? Maybe not. The officials told him to stay seated. Still, the timing was brutal, and the optics? Straight villainy. 4. Michael Bisping versus Jorge Rivera Bisping used to be one of the most hated guys in MMA, and this fight was a big reason why. After a bizarre trash talk buildup, Bisping landed a blatant illegal knee, which arguably changed the fight. Then, after Tidzu Aswas finishing Rivera, he walked over and spit at his corner. That's not bad boy behavior, that's just dirty. He claimed both the knee and the spit were accidents. Dana White, not buying it. Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell. This fight never should have happened. Chuck had been retired for nearly a decade, and everyone knew he shouldn't be fighting anymore, but Tito wanted that elusive win, and when he got it, he celebrated like he'd just conquered prime John Jones, burying taunt, chest thumping. The whole thing was gross. It was the MMA equivalent of dunking on a 90-year-old and screaming, "I'm the GOAT." Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Thompson. Seth Woodley already had a complicated relationship with fans, and the sequel to his fight of the night draw with Wonderboy didn't help. It was a slow, uneventful fight until the last 30 seconds. But despite both guys sharing the blame for the snoozer, it was Tyron who got all the heat. Booed during the announcement, criticized by Dana, even lost out on a GSP fight because of it, and that wasn't even his worst title defense. Aljamain. Sterling versus Peter Yan nothing, and I mean nothing, turned fans against a fighter faster than this. Sterling won the bantamweight title via disqualification after Yan illegally kneed him in the head. On paper, Aljo did nothing wrong. The knee was illegal. The rules were followed, but the way it all played out? A nightmare. People accused Sterling of faking, said he acted to win, and when he leaned into the hate online. The fire only grew. It was the first time a UFC title changed hands via DQ, and it instantly made Sterling one of the most hated champs in modern memory. And those are 10 times winning made fighters the villain. Which one had you yelling at your screen? Did we miss any that still bother you to this day? Smash that like button if you've ever watched a fight and instantly hated the winner. Hit subscribe for more wild moments from the fight game. And let me know in the comments which win left you seeing red. Catch you in the next one.